Hey, this is Donnie Cates, author of Buzzkill, and you are tuned in to Vigilant Liberty Radio. Get it on.
At Independent Journal Review, we publish news that is objective, fair, and entertaining. As one of the top websites in the United States, it's our duty to bring the absolute best to our readers. Readers like you. IJReview.com, your number one source for news and entertainment.
This is Chuck Dixon, the co-creator of Bane, and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Hi, this is Missy Bordius. Join me as I share my womanly bits on the Conservative Feminist Show, 11 p.m. on Fridays, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
At Independent Journal Review, we publish news that is objective, fair, and entertaining. As one of the top websites in the United States, it's our duty to bring the absolute best to our readers. Readers like you. IJReview.com, your number one source for news and entertainment.
Coming soon to Vigilant Liberty Radio. The Edge of Anarchy. Mondays on VLR.
To the show. This is the Right Mics with Mike Miller and Michael Hausum. We've actually decided, we went back and forth during the break arguing whether or not we were just going to play an archive of something genius from the past so that we could all join together and watch the last, I believe, 4.5 hours that are scheduled for the president's remarks. But because we've got Phil on the line, we decided to continue along with the live show. And so we have got Phil Kerpen, the head honcho over at American Commitment, online with us. Phil, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, Phil.
So you were watching the president, and we just quickly touched on it before the break. Neither of us were watching because we were so focused on what each other had to say. You want to bring us up to a little bit of speed, perhaps? And some remarks and comments that you could make on what he said before we get to you.
It was his usual sort of tone-deaf economic triumphalism about how all his policies have worked so fabulously, and that's why the economy is doing so wonderfully, and he saved the auto industry, and Obamacare is working great. And that was kind of his whole prepared remarks. And then, his immediate first question was about Sony, and he was actually pretty good. He was like, they should have released the movie. They shouldn't cave to tyrants. I was disappointed in them. They should have called me. I would have told them to release it. And so he kind of had me for a little bit, and then he started going off on, and I'll discuss the appropriate response with the international community. And then I'm like, all right. And then I put it on mute to talk to you guys.
So Phil, you said that when before we came on air. Did he really say that he's going to discuss it with the international community?
I mean, I don't know if that was the exact quote, but that's about right. He definitely used the words international community.
Wow. As if, in what the hell does a direct attack, cyber attack from North Korea on an American company in America, what the hell does that have to do with the international community?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm not a foreign policy guy, but
No, I'm just, yeah.
I'm a simple man. I don't think you need to talk to any international community. You know.
Oh, I do think it's interesting that when it's somebody else that's having to make the decisions, he's very, very involved in standing up to tyrants. Whereas when it's his own policies and actions with regard to tyrants, he seems to take a little bit different of a tact.
That's a
Just
good
a little
point.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know what? We can.
Yeah. I mean,
probably
we're way outside my area of expertise with this foreign policy stuff, but I mean, you know.
Hey, we're
the guy
way
who
outside
brought
Obama's as
communists and
well, so
mullahs and all
welcome
the
to
rest
his
of it.
club.
You know, I mean, him too. That's true. I don't
Well,
know.
all right, now, Phil, since we've got you on the line, man, and we don't have a whole lot of time, and you're the kind of guy that Mike and I would like to spend 2 hours with, we obviously don't have it. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about AmericanCommitment.org. I mean, I'm familiar with you guys, obviously. Tell the folks that are not familiar who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it, and why they should care.
Yes, first of all, AmericanCommitment.org is our website, which was hacked by Hamas earlier this morning, but we have restored it. I'm not joking. That actually happened,
Really?
which is kind of hilarious. Because we don't work on foreign policy at all, so I don't know why these guys are attacking. Anyway, we are a national advocacy organization. We work on basically economic policy. We do taxes, spending, energy policy, healthcare, and regulatory policy are kind of the main focuses. We also work on some political free speech issues because we don't want the IRS to shut us down and our friends down. But that's kind of the issue portfolio. And what we do that's different from a lot of other groups is we don't do the 20 and 30-page papers and the semi-academic stuff that you see out of a lot of Washington groups. We pride ourselves on getting our facts and our research right, but we really try to get everything very focused, something you can read in a few minutes or watch a short video or look at a chart and kind of get what the point is, and then we also tell you what to do with that information. So we set up kind of activism forms to send comments into regulatory comment dockets or letters into Congress to take action on the issues that we work on. And just some of the highlights from our 2014, which was a pretty exciting year for us. We led the fight against those IRS rules to muzzle political nonprofits earlier in the year. That was a pretty big success. We got them to withdraw that rule. We put over 800,000 comments into the FCC against the proposal that Obama's been pushing to turn the Internet into a regulated and heavily taxed public utility. We ran an ad that I think had a major impact in the North Carolina race, where we actually played on the other radio stations in the state the race-baiting ad that Harry Reid's Super PAC was running that said Tom Tillis killed Trayvon Martin. And more recently, we were really central in getting the Jonathan Gruber videos out. We were the group that posted that first one on our YouTube and helped Rich Weinstein, the researcher who found all these videos, get them out to all the media and so on. So we had a pretty great year in 2014, and we're hoping to follow it up with another great year in 2015. And, of course, if you like any of what I just said, there's a donate button there on AmericanCommitment.org, and the rumors that we have billionaires giving us all the money we need are false, so we do depend on the public to keep all this great stuff going. And I know you liked some of our videos and posted them on your website, which we really appreciate. I mean, you guys have, IG Review is just an unbelievable runaway success, and so anytime we get a post on there, that's a big deal for us that we appreciate.
Well, you know what? When we did, I think we ran the Democrats Will Never Fix Obamacare as well as the Grubergate one. I mean, I thought those two videos were so absolutely genius.
I'm not going to dispute that. Thank you.
Now, as far as the money goes, and obviously people need to go check that out, and it's a super legitimate place if you've got some spare money that you'd like to get involved in politics. But personally, you get your Koch brothers checks, right?
I'm going to be honest. We have got a few grants from sort of the Koch affiliated grant making group, which is called Freedom Partners. So we're not on zero like you guys probably are. But in 2013, the most recent tax year that filings are available, we got 14% of our budget from them, and so it's not zero. But it's not keeping the lights on, and so I'm not going to say those guys are. Those guys are very generous. I appreciate everything they do. I'm a huge admirer of Charles and David Koch, but this myth in the liberal media that every conservative group out there doesn't need any other donors is, at least in our case, not true at all.
Oh, absolutely. Now, obviously, if you really wanted to ramp up your funding, you would completely and totally change your focus, primarily either on climate change, increased regulation, or green energy. That would be the way that you would really get some significant money flowing in from the left, at least, right?
Well, I mean, the amount of money on the left on those issues is like absolutely staggering. I remember I was looking through some of the grant documents for some of these liberal groups a couple of years ago, and I saw one single gift from one liberal foundation, the Hewlett Foundation, which is the David Hewlett, the HP Founders Foundation, gave a gift to one environmental group, the Climate Works Network, in 2008. That, if memory recalls, it was $580 million. That's just like one green group, one grant from one foundation. It's like more than my organization's ever going to see for all of history combined. And so, I mean, there's so much money on the left. It really is staggering. And then, they complain about, $10,000 grants on the right, like you're corrupted by it. It's really sort of a staggering double standard. But, the way that I look at this, look, liberals are going to raise money from liberals. Conservatives are going to raise money from conservatives. I still kind of think everyone sort of makes the best arguments that they have, and arguments should either fail or succeed on the merits. So all this sort of obsession with trying to trace where money comes from and that kind of thing, I think is a big waste of time and energy when we'd be better served having the actual policy arguments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing I did want to do, I was noticed and I read, and this you guys put up yesterday, about the title of the article was "Don't Let Cheap Oil Kill Keystone," and it was interesting because I saw on Twitter yesterday comments from folks that kind of surprised me. Gas prices have really dropped recently, and I saw even a couple of conservatives saying, "Well, maybe this is not the time to try to fight the Keystone XL battle because, oil prices are lower. It's not as important as it might have been when gas was, 50% higher, whatever." And I thought that the article that you guys posted was pretty interesting. Why don't you talk about that a little bit and the perspective that you guys had?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it would be a huge mistake to let up on the pressure at all on Keystone. And, of course, prices have come down precipitously, both crude oil prices and, the price at the pump. And, I see that as a great thing. You've got all this sort of hand-wringing on Wall Street where they're, worried about the various companies that are going to be hurt by lower oil prices. And, all I could think about is the hundreds of millions of Americans that could fill up their tank a whole lot cheaper. And, the economic benefits of that are going to be much greater than the losses on the producer side. So it's a wonderful thing that we're looking at lower oil prices, but it's also almost certainly a pretty temporary thing. I think the low prices I hope are going to last. I hope they last a long time, but realistically, I don't think they're going to last more than 6 or 8 months before we start to see a significant rebound. I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Saudi Arabia and a lot of the other low-cost foreign producers to cut back on their production because the prices where they are now are they're still making money, but they're well below their fiscal break-even for their national budgets, and so they're pushing their national budgets into deficit by keeping the prices where they are. And I think for that reason, we're going to see a significant rebound probably within the next year. And if we suddenly say, look, we're not going to drill in the U.S., we're not going to build infrastructure projects like the pipeline because oil's cheap, and if it stays this cheap forever, maybe the economics aren't that great to do these big investments. We're going to have a big setback, and when prices go back up, we're going to wish that we had moved forward on all these fronts. And in particular, for the pipeline, there's so many reasons that it makes sense to do it, and the oil sands in Alberta are going to be developed. They're going to be developed. It doesn't make that much difference what the world oil price is. It doesn't make that much difference whether we build the pipeline or not. They're going to be developed, and the question is, do we want them to get to market by tanker and by train, by rail, or do we want them to come through a pipeline? If we want them to come through a pipeline, do we want it to be a pipeline here or to the west coast of Canada where they're going to go to export terminals? And, if you look at the various options, the Keystone XL pipeline is a total no-brainer, and it's something that the Liberals, if they were honest, that global warming is their number one concern, they would be for the pipeline, because the Hillary Clinton State Department's own analysis says that it will reduce greenhouse gas emissions 28 to 42% versus the no action scenario, because in the no action scenario,